So, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So, okay, let's start. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Maybe you begin.
okay, maybe I set the tone for this conversation. So, do you see this picture? It's your picture, Shreya.
Really? I can't.
Oh, it's this little picture. We got it from Varanasi when we were in Shivaratri. So it's,
oh, yeah, right.
yeah.
Right.
So it's your picture and your quotation, and it's so beautiful. We are keeping it in our hearts because you're saying here this, that when one can stop the distractions of the mind stuff, then the mind in its tranquil state reflects the essence of one true being, and this is very deeply resonating.
Very true. Very true.
So I have a couple of questions related to this theme.
Sure.
Like also this quotation, would you say, like also, for example, Ramana Maharshi says that the mind turned outwards is the ego and turned inwards is the self. And also then in Katmi Shaivism, in this Kshema Rajas, this Pratyapikna Hridayam, in the sutra, it is said about the mind that it is the very mind when it rises above the limited, its limitations, it becomes the unlimited consciousness. So I have two questions related to that. So when the mind gets tranquil and you start recognizing or realizing your true essence. So often it is like described as like a one big great event in time and space. But isn't it also so that it can happen gradually and you start getting glimpses while meditating? And although they're still a bit dimmed and veiled maybe, but they are like recognitions, momentary recognitions and realizations. So could you elaborate this theme of maybe self-recognition as the gradual process of like a deepening in the practice? Like a,
okay.
You get the picture?
Yeah, I got it. So, first let me tell you that there is this, sometimes people misunderstand that this could happen only with a big bang. It's partly true and partly not true, because this growth into the spiritual actually has no end. Any other growth has an end. You can grow, but then again it ends somewhere. You can't grow more than that. But here, it's a process of opening into unlimited dimensions, unlimited. Therefore, even if there is one part of your life where you had a kind of a complete change, like a big bang, it won't be a big bang, it's a bang certainly, because you suddenly turn your mind in a different direction. That itself, it need not be accompanied by a flash of light. That's what I am trying to say, externally at least. It may be an internal light, yes. So, I go back again to this where you started, that when the mind has become quiet, absolutely quiet, which means free of all distraction, free of all tension, because there are no opposing forces. There's only the tension comes when there are two. When there is one, then what do you do? Nothing. So, in that tensionless state, where there are no conflicts, basically then I should do this, I should not do this, I should think this, I should not think this. So, there is no such conflict, there is nothing to do. Somebody even said nothing ever happened, but anyway, that we won't go that extreme. But so what happens is, when this happens, when the mind is absolutely still, it still is conscious, mind you, it's not unconscious, it's absolutely still. The essence of consciousness is there, where I can kind of go back to where you said what Ramana Maharshi said, that when it's projected outside, it's the ego. When it's projected inside, when it turns inside, then it's not the ego, it's the self, the big self. The big S without the slashes, not the dollar. So, but to get there, you need to slash. So when all slashing is over, there's nothing left to be slashed, and there is no conflict, and there is no tension, and there is no distraction. Therefore, when this happens, in that stillness, the mind is no longer the mind which we normally define. It's not a mind which is a human mind. Then it reflects the divinity, and the reflection is so overwhelming that the mind as an entity ceases to exist as an individual entity, but it is conscious. It's not as if it has lost its awareness. The awareness is there very much, but it's not limited awareness. It's awareness of the whole. Now for example, for the second part of your question, whether it happens suddenly once for all or it keeps going, I would vote for, while something really serious happens once, but there are small bangs happening after that, gradually. It's growing. I can give you two examples. There are many examples. My example, I don't want to give my example, but I'll give you two examples, because one is Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Now, if you have heard, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa is not so well known in the West, but Swami Vivekananda is well known in the West. Swami Vivekananda was only one of the disciples of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. But he went abroad, he went to the Parliament of Religions in Chicago, he spoke, he could speak good English and so on, so he is well known. And he was not just an empty speaker, because he had the blessings and the training given to him by his master, Ramakrishna. And Ramakrishna was a person who could barely sign his name. He was not educated in the conventional sense of the term, but he was wiser than the most educated. So then we come to this, we'll discuss that later, whether education is a filling in with information or a opening out from inside. This is not part of that question. If at some time we need to discuss, we can do that. So he had wisdom, but didn't have what we normally call conventional knowledge. But he was his guru, his teacher. Now in Ramakrishna's case, here was a man who went through in his short lifetime, I think he lived only 51 or 52 years, his life. He passed through all the spiritual experiences which people experience in one sadhana in a lifetime. He went through different sadhanas and experienced everything. Now, the first awakening happened after a great deal of hard work. He was a simple priest, village priest, worshipping the most grotesque aspect of energy, Shakti, called Bhadrakali. Some people look at the image of Bhadrakali and think, why the hell are we worshipping this thing? Because the tongue is out, there's blood flowing, there are knives in the hand, and there's a garland of skulls on the neck. And so what are we worshipping? We're looking for something gentle and nice, but life is not gentle and nice. This world is terrible, So it's a reality. And Kali is the destroyer of ignorance. And there's no way other than cutting it with a sword. Well, there was a man who talked about peace, who said that bless them that curse you, and yet also said, I come with a sword. So, this cutting away of ignorance is what Kali is all about. So, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa started his spiritual life by being a devotee of the mother goddess Kali in her most dangerous aspect of Bhadrakali. He worshipped her, and his only desire in life was to have a vision of her, to actually see her, talk to her, be one with her. Well, he didn't even talk of being one with her, because he said, I would prefer to taste the sugar than become the sugar, then I can't taste it. So anyway, he kept that distinction for a long time. It went off finally. So after all that, his first so-called bang, one bang, happened when one day he fell into a trance and he saw nothing but liquid light. He didn't see the mother goddess in that grotesque form. He saw a sea of light. That was his first experience. And he was also kind of completely submerged in that sea of light. And it took a long time for him to come out of that. That was his first experience. But that was not the end. This is what I am trying to say. I am discussing your question. Then he went through so many other spiritual experiences. If that one thing had been enough, he need not have gone through the rest. But he did. Till in the end he realized that it is all the same. But for that he had to go through all. He was not a man who would have said, yeah, they are all the same because it is written in a book. No. He said, let me find out for myself. So he found out for himself. He was a real scientist, looking into his own mind, trying to explore. And in the end, after exploring all the sadhanas and all the experiences, he declared, through my experience, I say it's all the same. So his mind was constantly growing. The other is, he was like an innocent child. So after he did one sadhana, normally people, oh, I have found. No, if any teacher came to the Dakshineshwar temple where he used to live, he used to go there and touch their feet and say, please, can you teach me what you know? So if he knew everything, why? So these are different aspects that you find. Even if you have found the center, you still find the different aspects. Some people are happy with the center, they just sit quiet. They have discovered the fact that the mind turned inwards is no different from the Supreme. They have found that the Father and the Son are one. Yeah, and some are happy with that, they stay there. But there are others who want to teach, who like to go through different experiences because human beings are different kinds. So then they can deal with that. So, how important Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was to Swami Vivekananda can be understood when since he went to England and the United States, there were lots of devotees, followers who worshipped him almost like a god. So one day they asked him that, can you describe your master to us? What kind of a man was he? Can you describe, because you're like this. So what kind of a person was he? Can you describe? Swami Vivekananda thought for a long time. He didn't know how to describe this being to these people. So he finally said, I can only say that a speck of dust from those blessed feet could have created 1,000 Vivekanandas. This is how he defined his master, who was in conventional terms an illiterate. See? So this is also what the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, at the beginning, Patanjali defines yoga as yoga chitta vritti nirodha, when all the movements and distractions and conflicts and tensions of the mind are completely finished, then what remains is the pure sattvic mind. This pure sattvic mind is conscious, but it is not conscious of the limitations. It is unlimited consciousness. It no longer is the mind as we know it. It's but a reflection of the Purusha. In yogic terms, Purusha. In the Yoga Darshanas, the ultimate is called a Purusha. So, it's a reflection of the Purusha. But this mind can still function. But this mind that functions in this world, even after touching the Purusha, is totally dyed in Purusha. Dyed meaning colored, totally. That is, even though it's functioning. Yeah.
We love that. Thank you so much. It's a related question that also relates to Ramakrishna and what you just described, actually, about us, each individuals being like a reflections of the absolute. So, isn't it so that the individuality is also part of the nature of the divine? Because when the mind starts reflecting purely, it actually just starts reflecting more and more purely and more multicolored. For example, being who is already self-realized, it will still deepen in wisdom and compassion and different aspects. Like you said, also Ramakrishna was like deepening, not just sitting still, but so isn't it that the individuality actually will remain forever in a way that you are at the same time recognizing your nature as a pure absolute consciousness, but at the same time you are reflecting as an individual soul deeper and deeper wisdom and compassion and maybe deeper skills of creation. And if, for example, Sri Guru Papaji or other super great beings, they are still individual reflections, although they have realized their true essence long time ago. So what would you say is like...
What is the question?
Question is that isn't the nature of consciousness to be both one, both absolute, and then always multiple, like always this reflective individual aspect as individualized soul always remains, but it just expands in its how much and how broadly it reflects the absolute. Am I clear enough with the question? Like,
I think, but it's difficult to quantify. We're not talking about a quantity, so it's difficult to quantify. We're talking more of the qualitative side, not the, you know what I mean. So, yes, you're right in a way that the individual consciousness, which in Vedanta is referred to as the Jiva Atma. The Jivatma, there are two, three ways of looking at this. One approach is the Jivatma realizes that it is an emanation of the Paramatma, of the Supreme. This is one way of experiencing. In some cases, the Jivatma realizes that its separate existence is an illusion. Now, this is the teaching of Shankara. Adi Shankaracharya, who did commentaries on all the Upanishads, taught the absolute monism, Advaita Vedanta, where Jivatma is there only as long as it realizes it is different. When it sees that it is not different, then there is no Jivatma there. Jivatma, there is only the Paramatma, there is no Jivatma, there is only the Brahman. The very idea of a separate Jivatma is an illusion according to Shankara, and he calls that illusion Maya. Now, we have to watch this very carefully. Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara himself, after having touched, of course, I am sure that when he talks on Vedanta, he has his talking from his experience also, not just the books. Even though he was a great expert in Sanskrit and so on, he was talking because we have read the commentaries, we meaning many of us, and we see that no one could have written those commentaries unless they touch something. It's not just a theoretical commentary. Now, this person, who at the age of 12, so he must have been a child prodigy. After many lives, he must have come in this life, after having gone through a lot of perfections. Because at the age of 12, he had mastered all the Vedantic texts. This is not possible generally at 12. And then At the 13 he took sannyas. And generally, people, it's normally better to go through the family life and so on and take sannyas, because otherwise there's a possibility that you might become a monk and then after some time want to go back and so on, but you finish everything. That's the normal procedure. But here, a highly developed person might jump from being a brahmachari straight to a sannyasi. In his case, I think it was so. Okay. So, at the age of 13 or so, he took sannyas. He became a monk, a young monk. And if he had already touched that, but that did not stop him from moving around, traveling and teaching. Even though he knew that the so-called Jivatma, according to him, is a modification and an illusion, and there is only the Paramatman. For the purpose of teaching and interacting with others, he maintained an ego, and that is the Jiva. Otherwise he couldn't have. He could have gone into some kind of a trance and remained there, like Nirvana, like the Arahant. But he acted as a Bodhisattva. You see, in the Mahayana texts, this is something very, very nice, which I love in the Mahayana Buddhist teachings. Normally what happens is a person reaches Nirvana, or understanding, snuffing out of all that is negative, all illusions gone, there is only the reality. Nirvana is not nothing. There's a misunderstanding that Nirvana is nothing. It's not nothing, it's no thing. Yeah, this I understand. It's not a thing, but it's something else. It's Shunya. Now, Shunya is the beginning and end of everything, so it cannot be nothing. It's called Shunya because it can't be defined in words, ordinary words. So, according to the Mahayana teachings, a person who has perfected Nirvana, who has understood, or I am deliberately avoiding the word experienced because there is no experiencer there, but when the Nirvana happens, some people like to be in Nirvana forever, and they are called the Arhants. The Arhant. Some people, the theosophy is called Arhat, but they are Arhants. Now there are some people who have touched Nirvana. One foot is on that side of the border. What the Buddhists say, Paragate, they are on the other side, the position of Para. There is a beautiful Buddhist Mahayanic sloka which says, Tadyatha Gatagate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhiswaha. So you have stepped across the boundary. One foot is there, the other foot is at the back still, and you say, I am there, I know this Nirvana. But then I stop and say, there are thousands of people in this world who haven't understood this. What if I put the other foot also there and get lost completely? I have to bring as many people as possible from here to this Nirvana. So I am going back. I am stepping back. Now, that can happen only if there is so much compassion that you know that when you come back to this world, you are going to suffer. Even though there is still suffering going on physically, you get disease. But I say no, but I know this, I have tasted this, but I can't taste it only for myself. I need to get everybody, as many people as possible. And the Mahayana philosophy is that at some point in our numerous lives, millions of lives that pass through, all the beings would have been your mothers at some point. I need to get my mothers to Nirvana. So they come, such persons, the Mahayana called the Bodhisattvas. So there are two classifications of Mahayana, Arahant, Bodhisattva, Buddha. Now, Buddha is a Bodhisattva who has come several times to help the poor, and now he has come in the form of Buddha. While an Arahant are all the masters who have attained Nirvana and are sitting there happily. So now if someone has to come back and do work, not because of any compulsion, totally voluntarily, because one feels that others should also know what's on the other side. Why are we sitting locked up in our own little houses? Is the white sky and the rivers and the mountains and the lake I used to see outside your window. This is a wide world. And others are sitting inside, closed, not looking out. I say, look, I have seen, I need to show them. This is what it is all about. It's infinite. Such people who come back will also retain an individuality. And that individual may have more capacities than the ordinary individual who has not touched it. Because in private movements, such a being is in that. In public movements, a being is interacting. So it's a little difficult to define that border actually. It's like almost walking on the edge of a razor. The Mundaka Upanishad says, Surasya Dhara, it's like walking on the edge of a razor. And it's so sharp and thin. You can go this way, that way, you can hurt your feet, but you walk. So, while everything is one, everything is also different, if need be. But in that difference, you don't see the difference, you see only the one, you see. If you see only the different, then you are like anybody else. But if you see the one in the different, then you are not like everybody, you are changed. Something has happened inside.
Thank you so much. I was just still thinking of Ramakrishna was saying, at least in that book, I think Ramakrishna and his disciples, he saying somewhere that he came to pick up Vivekananda, that Vivekananda was sitting in that eternal bliss of Nirvana, and he came and picked him up down to the earth. So I guess it's exactly what you're referring of.
Let me tell you the actual story, actually what happened. The young Ramakrishna was ill. He got a cancer of the throat, physical body, anything can. He didn't care, of course, but others cared. So he was there resting. And one of his disciples went and told him that your disciple, your favorite disciple, Narendra, his name was Narendra. Narendra has gone into a state of Samadhi. He just opened his eyes and he said, I don't exist. There's only one reality and so on. So he said, go and bring him. So they went and brought him. And he asked him, what is your greatest desire in life? What is your desire? Have you seen see something going on Netflix called Lucifer, who looks at people and says, what is your desire in life? You know, like that. He asked him, what is your desire in life? And he said, my life desire is fulfilled. It's like I need to be in this state always, forever. That's what I want. And Ramakrishna said, you scoundrel, is this why I trained you all these years? You have work to do. You have to bring this consciousness to others, which is why I trained you. So if you want to sit always absorbed in that, you're being a little selfish. You need to come out. So he said, but I love it. He said, okay. So now, from now on, I'm going to lock this for you. I'm going to keep the key with me. After you have done your work, I'll give you the key. Not before that. Poor man, so he had to work hard. He had to work hard. The master passed away, but the key was with him. And he had to work on work day. You know, he passed away at the age of 41 or something, or 39. 39, Vivekananda. And in this 39 years of his life, on the last 10 years or 20 years of his life, I think he did the work of 100 people who need to have worked for 100 years. And then you know that one of his favorite disciples was an Irish lady called Sister Nivedita, who he had named Nivedita. So, after the Ramakrishna mission was established, Belur Math was built and everything, Swamiji decided that he had to go to Kashmir to no, to the linga there, Amarnath. He wanted to go to Amarnath. So, Sister Nivedita was the only one who went with him. And when he sat and meditated in the cave, there's an ice linga there in Amarnath. It's beyond Kashmir. It's formed naturally by ice. It's huge. There's a cave and there's a big linga. So when he meditated and he came out, his eyes were red. He was flushed. His face was flushed. And he kept saying, Shivoham, 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 I'm Shivam, I'm Shivam, I'm Shiva. Nivedita got worried because some of his brother disciples had told her that the master said that he is a manifestation of Shiva, Ramakrishna. And the moment he discovers his complete identity, he will leave this world. So when he kept saying Shivoham and looking like vacant eyes, Nivedita got worried. She said, but Master, you can't go now. There's a lot of work to be done. You've done so much work, we need to complete it. So he turned to her and said, do you think I did anything? You think I did all this? No. He said, you know that Kali who sits in Dakshineshwar? She climbed my shoulders and she was making me do things. I did nothing. So it's time to go, I need to go. So he came back to Belur Math and that's it. In about, I think 6 months, he passed away. I mean, he left. So why did I say that? What's the link to your question? I forgot. I got caught up in the story. Huh?
It's a wonderful story. You were just telling us that you want to tell what really happened, because I was actually referring to, I think, something else when Ramakrishna says in another place that originally why Vivekananda Narendra was even coming to this earth, it was because he had to come already to work for him. But this, what you told, is very beautiful and touching. So thank you so much.
This was the connection, the link. I have to say this, that all our listeners in Satsang Foundation throughout the world love the Finland Satsangs. Let me tell you this. They all ask for it. When is the next Finland Satsang?
So, Sri M, I saw a recent presentation you had, maybe back in February, and you talked about love, and in a way that I became curious to know. You basically said love is undefinable, but I'm still going to ask you. Maybe if you can define it, like we use love, not of course not as a love between two human beings, but as a more universal quality and a trait of the reality. And I wonder if you can share your own opinion about this, and also if we use this this term a whole lot here in this place, as a means to understand how we are all connected and how we all are um, well, both at service but also to be served. Uh, I'm not sure if I make myself clear, but I would like if you could share something. If you could maybe try anyway to define what do you think about this theme of love?
Well, friends, Hans, it's like this. What I said in the talk which you refer to, that it cannot be defined, is true. But we all go by definitions, right? We cannot exist without some definition or the other. So the whole process of writing, of the ancient writings, was an attempt to define the undefinable. This, the whole attempt. And when you say love, I don't think that even ordinary love can be separated from it. Even ordinary love, let's say a monkey carrying its little baby on this, in its stomach and running around trying to protect it, that's also love. We cannot say that only the ultimate is love, that's also love. When two people meet each other and they like each other and they fall in love, even though partially it may be hormonal, partially, but that is also love. As long as both people don't think only about themselves, but about the other person. Then you can't separate it and say this is not love. It's terrible to say only this is love, this is not. No. So, in the ultimate sense, love is a characteristic or a quality of the Supreme. And therefore, it is there present in every heart of every living being. We human beings are in a position better than the other animals because we can recognize it. Animals also give love. The dogs, they love you so much. But they can't actualize the love in themselves. They can give it to you, but they don't recognize it themselves. They can't recognize it. We human beings have the unique quality of being aware of our consciousness. They are also very conscious, they are very intelligent, but they are not conscious. Yes, some animals who live with human beings, after a great deal of interaction, begin to sense the consciousness in themselves. These will come back as human beings next time, as good human beings, not like, they won't come back like Hitler, but they come back like good human beings. Well, I'm not saying anything bad about Hitler because I think he had some problems and some thoughts. It's okay, but he also must have had some love somewhere in his heart, I'm sure. I can't rule it out. There is nobody who doesn't have some love somewhere in the corner of their heart, and this love is a manifestation of the Supreme. Because when you say Supreme, it's just that love without expecting anything in return. If you are, if I am empty, then I need something to fill. I depend on other people's affection. But if I am full, I don't need to fill it with anything from outside. But when there is love, then you give. You don't need to receive, you give. So imagine the state of two people only, suppose, physically, who are only giving and not bothered about receiving. That builds up into a tremendous energy. What I am trying to say, even from the single cellular organism, the amoeba, to the developed human being, there is love. We cannot classify it as hormonal love and non-hormonal love. It's still love. Even the attraction between electrons is a kind of love. Even magnetism is a kind of love. That's why people say, oh, somebody has a magnetic personality, which means what? Attracts. So, this quality of attraction is a divine quality. They say that when Krishna played his flute in Vrindavan on the hills, all the gopis were attracted to him. Now, you can't say that this is a human attraction. You cannot also say that it is a fully divine attraction. It was somewhere in between. So, this love has various grades. The more unselfish, the nearer it is to divinity. The more selfish, it is lesser than divinity, is more human. And if it turns into hate, then it becomes tamoguna. So, let me now, the traditional interpretation of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, the attributes, the gunas. Sattva is supposed to be calm, quiet, good. Rajas is supposed to be activity. And Tamas is inertia, laziness, anger, all those things, what we think are negative. If you put love as a word, which in the scriptures, the Bhakti text is described as Bhakti. Bhakti has been divided, Bhakti or devotion, which is love, has been graded as different kinds of devotion. There is the ordinary, there is the extraordinary. The extraordinary is called the Madhura Bhava, where the person who expresses it wants nothing but the Lord. Not even himself or herself, only the Lord. But there are so that is sattvic. Rajasic is when we want to touch that divinity and we are working hard towards it in different ways. Tamasic is we still have love in tamasic form, but it is not directed towards the divine. We still have love. Don't think that tamas does not have love. There is love as we know it normally, but it is not directed towards the divinity. It is directed to the physical, but still it's a manifestation of love. Now, I would suggest that if you need to go deep into this subject, in your next satsangs, take up the study of a small little book called Narada Bhakti Sutras. Narada Bhakti Sutras. That means Narada's sutras, aphorisms on devotion, bhakti. There is a very elaborate presentation of this whole aspect of love and devotion. You know who is Narada? Narada is if you read the Mahabharata or the scriptures, you will see a personality called Narad. He is always flying in the air with a veena in his hand. You know veena? Like a musical instrument, stringed instrument. And whenever he descends from the sky, he says Narayana, Narayana and descends. Now, he is not supposed to be a human being, but a son of Brahma, the creator. And people say when there's someone who is always, gossiping and conspiracy and all that, people say this guy is behaving like Narad. Because what Narada does is when there is a situation about to explode, he comes with his veena, says Narayana, Narayana. And he goes to one person and says, you heard what is happening there? He says, no. This is what is happening there. Sort it out, and goes off. So this Narada is supposed to be a supreme gossip, definition of supreme gossip. And he, in fact, people say that somebody is a big gossip, they say, you're behaving like Narad. But Narada is supposed to be the greatest of devotees. So when he makes people sometimes fight with each other, the gods, actually he's trying to do it to solve a problem, not because he gets any joy out of it. You know what I mean? So Narada there is a collection of sutras called the Narada Bhakti Sutras, where he describes devotion. According to the ancient teachings, he was also born a human being. After one Manvantara, when the world ended and it started again after the Pralaya, then he came out through Brahma's Atman as the son of Brahma. Before that, it's an interesting story. Narada's mother used to work as a servant in the household when the rishis used to come and stay there. You know, in India, for 4 months in a year, the holy men don't travel. So in Sanskrit, the word for 4 is chatur. So chaturmasya, 4 months they don't travel. Why? Because there's a monsoon. Because the holy men don't travel in aeroplanes and train, they walk. So when there is a rain for 4 months, in the monsoon, they can't walk, so they stay in one place. So Narada's mother used to work as a human being in one of those places where ashrams, where the holy men used to come and stay. Nobody knows who the father was. We don't know. So then he grew up serving them, massaging their feet, bringing water for them, giving them food, looking after them, along with his mother. And he heard the rishis, the sages talking, discussing about Bhakti and about God and about Narayana and so on. It got into his mind. His only thought in his mind was, I must serve the Supreme Being. That was his thought. Yeah. But the devotion became so great that he wanted to stop all this activity, wander away to the Himalayas or somewhere and contemplate on the Lord for a long time, which he couldn't do here. There was one problem. He loved his mother and his mother loved him. Bond. So then one day when his mother was going in the dark to bring water, a cobra bit her and she died. Now what is the normal reaction? Normal reaction is, oh, my mother died. Narada sat down and he also said, oh, my mother died, but now I am free. So his desire to travel and go to a quiet place and meditate and be with the Lord forever happened because his mother died. So he took it that way. This is how a devotee, this is love. One would say, no, well, this is not love because his mother died and he says, I'm happy. No, he didn't say, I'm happy. He said, okay, my mother died. This is what it has to be because I have to go. That bond was gone, broken. So he went and he meditated for years and years and merged with the Lord, so that when the world ended, we know in ancient teachings the world has many cycles. It ends and it comes back again. So when the Pralaya happened and it ended, and when it came back, he came back as the son of the creator Brahma, because he had already advanced. And then his job became to sing the name of the Lord, play the veena, and create problems for human beings. So that they would move. If you don't have a problem, then you think everything is hunky-dory, right? It's only when some churning happens that you wake up, right?
Yeah, that also corresponds very nicely with how I usually explain love. Like I explain love like maybe more, sometimes more scientifically, that love is both what attracts but also what dispels. So, for example, the magnetism, the way the planets are circling around the sun, that it's not like they are attracted so much that they become one with the sun. They are attracted enough to stay at a certain distance to the
Then they're
sun.
burnt if
Yes.
they go too close.
Yes, and so love both has this
Attraction and repulsion.
creator aspect, and it has the preserver aspect, and it has the destroyer aspect.
Yes, very much. Very much. If you don't destroy the limit, then you cannot touch the unlimited. Right. So it's the and plus when you said scientific, love is also chemical, especially in human beings and animals. It's also chemical because when serotonin is pumped into the system, I feel good. And when the sexual hormones are pumped into the system, I don't do it, it comes from the pituitary gland, master controller, then I feel very attracted to somebody. If it's not there, I don't. So in a way, yes, that's also true. It's also chemical. But that doesn't reduce from the fact that it is a reality.
Wonderful. Wonderful discussion. I think you gave some very rich perspectives on this. So thank you for that. I have another question.
Please.
It's entirely different, but I hope you can answer to, like, I both ask as let's say ignorant sadhaka, and that's why I'm asking you this. What is the significance of Rudraksha? And could you elaborate on that theme of Rudraksha, and why is it that some are wearing the Rudraksha? Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now, let's discuss Rudraksha first and not the actual Rudraksha. Because the meaning of the word Rudraksha is the eye of Rudra. Aksha, eye. Rudra, the destroyer, Shiva. So, Shiva in his fairy aspect is Rudra. You know, the Rudram hymns are there. So, Rudraksha actually means the eye of Shiva. Therefore, from the mystical point of view, yogic point of view, Rudraksh is no different from the Ajna, which is the eye of Shiva. This is the real Rudraksh. Okay. However, there is a Rudraksha tree that grows. It may not grow in Finland because of the winter. It's very cold. So, but in India it grows, Rudraksha grows, not in the Himalayas, but little down in the plains and the foothills. And the Rudraksha tree has a fruit which dries and you get the seed. This is called the Rudraksha because Shiva is supposed to be wearing a garland made of Rudrakshas, of that seed. So it has two meanings. One is that it is the Ajna. Second, Shiva depicted as the perfect yogi. Shiva is also Yogiraj, the king of all yogis. He is also Nataraj, the king of all dancers. So he wears only one garland, and that is the garland from the Rudraksha tree, according to the Shiva Purana. No other garland. He wears either a snake or a Rudraksh. So therefore, connecting Shiva's third eye to the Rudraksha that Shiva wears as a garland, as a necklace, the Rudraksha has acquired a certain holiness, a certain respect in India from ancient times. So therefore, since most people don't have the Rudraksha opened here, they at least wear the Rudraksha on their necks. But what you should remember is that since Rudraksha is Shiva, associated with Shiva, it's generally worn by monks, sannyasins, generally. Because it is supposed to be Rudra, destroyer. So it may destroy all your earthly things and give you only the spiritual. So therefore generally it's worn only by people who have given up the world. Yeah, and live a life of like a yogis. And it does have a certain effect when you meditate, especially if it has been blessed by somebody who has some spiritual understanding. Now here is where there is a little difference between an ordinary bead and a Rudraksha. In my experience, my understanding, if you have some energy in you, suppose which you are able to transfer, if, big if you do, if you hold a Rudraksha in your hands, it absorbs more than any other substance that I know of. It does. Therefore, when a yogi, guru or a teacher gives it to a disciple, then it is charged more than an ordinary piece of wood or any other. The problem here, it's not a problem, but human beings can make problems out of no problems. And yeah, and that is, since it's associated with Shiva, the destroyer, Rudra, Vaishnavites don't wear Rudraksha because they worship Krishna, who is Mahavishnu, and they consider Rudraksha to be inauspicious, and therefore they wear Tulsi Mala. Tulsi. You try and make a Vaishnavite to wear Rudraksh, they will refuse to do it. They will not wear it because they are associated with Shiva, who lives in the cremation grounds, who rubs the ashes of dead bodies on his face. So it's, well, Tulsi is supposed to be auspicious because Tulsi malas were worn by Krishna. But I personally don't distinguish between Krishna, Shiva, Narayana. See, it's one source from which all this have happened. And believe me, there are Shaivites, people who worship Shiva in India, who will not go to a Vishnu temple. I have seen this happen. So it's all foolish actually. It's all artificial theories which we don't have to go into. According to me, there is one supreme reality. Could be manifested as Shiva, Vishnu. You can choose what you want because according to your nature. So let me sum up with this Rudraksha thing. So if you find a good Rudraksha, unfortunately today much of the Rudrakshas sold or wood Rudrakshas made in machines to look like Rudrakshas. So you should even know about a Rudraksh. If you have a glass of water and if you put a Rudraksh there, if it is a real Rudraksh, it will sink. If it is manufactured, it will float because it is wood. So if it is a real Rudraksh, then it is a good thing to wear it because you are all yogis in some way and Yogiraj wears a Rudraksh, so it's a good thing to wear it. And if you can get it charged and take it, it's good, even better. Now one little trick, which is even if it's not been blessed by anybody, the Rudraksh, and if it is a real one, original one, keep it in when you meditate in your ajna for some time, every day. Then after some time it will get charged by itself. It may not be that far, but it's still charged.
If you can, we were thinking again like last year and the year before, when you were physically here, we enlightened the Duni fire. So we are going to do it again with your blessing, if you will. And
Yes.
so if there is any couple of remaining minutes left, if we can sit just still in your blessing, or if you have time for that, give us a little.
Sure, we could do that.
Yeah.
Can we sit for just 2 minutes
Yes, it's very good. Thank you so much
before
for
somebody
today.
comes and
Yeah, thank you for this wonderful satsang.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. So let's chant Om together 3 times and then close our eyes. And when I say Hari Om Tat Sat, we can open our eyes. Right? So you can chant Om yourself there. I will just be a witness. Start 3 times. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace. So nice meeting you all. We can discuss. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.